There was a time in my life when it felt like nobody truly believed in me. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how much effort I gave, people only seemed to notice my failures, my weaknesses, or the moments when I fell short. I remember walking into rooms, feeling invisible, carrying dreams inside my heart that nobody else could see. The hardest part was not the criticism from others. It was the quiet voice inside my own mind that slowly started agreeing with them. Day after day, I questioned myself. Maybe I was not talented enough. Maybe I was not smart enough. Maybe success was only meant for other people. That kind of thinking slowly drains your spirit without you even realizing it. Inspired by the teachings of Dr. Joseph Murphy, I eventually discovered that the greatest battle of life is not happening outside of you. It is happening within your own mind. The moment you allow doubt to control your thoughts, your energy changes, your confidence weakens, and your entire world begins reflecting those fears back to you. I started understanding that people often respond to the energy and belief you carry about yourself. If you constantly see yourself as small, incapable, or unworthy, the world will often mirror that same image. But one day, something inside me shifted. I became tired of waiting for approval from people who could not see my potential. I realized I had been giving others permission to define my value, and that was keeping me trapped in fear and insecurity. So instead of focusing on who doubted me, I started focusing on rebuilding my own mindset. Every morning, I began speaking positive words over my life, even when I did not fully believe them yet. I told myself that I was capable, worthy, strong, and destined for growth. At first, it felt uncomfortable and unnatural because negativity had become such a normal part of my thinking. But slowly, those repeated thoughts started planting new beliefs deep within my subconscious mind. That is something Dr. Joseph Murphy spoke about often. Whatever you consistently impress upon your subconscious eventually shapes your reality. Little by little, my confidence began growing from the inside out. I stopped chasing validation and started chasing personal growth. I stopped comparing my journey to others and began trusting my own path. The amazing thing is that once I truly started believing in myself, other people began noticing the difference too. Opportunities appeared. Conversations changed. The same people who once ignored me suddenly started paying attention. But by that point, I no longer needed their approval to feel valuable. I had finally discovered that real confidence is not built from outside praise. It is created internally through belief, persistence, and the courage to see greatness within yourself before anyone else does. As my mindset slowly began changing, I noticed something important that I had ignored for years. Most people are living according to the opinions, fears, and limitations placed on them by others. I realized I was not alone in feeling overlooked or underestimated. So many people walk through life carrying invisible wounds created by rejection, failure, criticism, or disappointment. They stop dreaming bigger because someone once told them they were not good enough. They silence their own voice because they fear judgment. They settle for less because they secretly believe they do not deserve more. For a long time, I carried those same emotional chains without even realizing it. I allowed old memories and negative experiences to define how I saw myself. But inspired by the wisdom of Dr. Joseph Murphy, I started understanding that the subconscious mind accepts repeated thoughts as truth, whether those thoughts are positive or destructive. That realization completely changed the way I spoke to myself every single day. I became more aware of my inner conversations. I noticed how often I expected failure before even trying. I noticed how quickly I doubted opportunities, questioned compliments, or assumed people would not support me. Those habits were deeply rooted in fear, and fear has a powerful way of controlling a person's future if left unchallenged. So I made a decision to mentally discipline myself. Instead of feeding my mind with worry, insecurity, and comparison, I began feeding it with hope, belief, gratitude, and vision. Every day became an opportunity to reprogram the way I thought about myself and my future. I started visualizing the life I truly wanted instead of obsessing over everything that seemed wrong in my present situation. At first, nothing changed on the outside, and that is where many people give up too early. They expect instant results and become discouraged when life still looks the same after a few days or weeks. But true transformation begins internally long before external results appear. Just like a seed grows underground before anyone can see it, confidence and success begin developing within your mind before they ever become visible in your reality. That understanding gave me patience during difficult moments. Even when nobody applauded my growth, I kept going. Even when people doubted my vision, I protected it. I stopped explaining my dreams to people committed to misunderstanding me. I learned that not everyone is meant to understand your journey while you are still building it. Some people only recognize your value after your transformation becomes visible. But by then, your strength no longer depends on the recognition. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was that self-belief is not arrogance. Believing in yourself does not mean you think you are better than others. It simply means you finally refuse to think less of yourself. There is a major difference between confidence and ego. Confidence comes from inner peace, while ego constantly seeks attention and approval. As I continued changing my mindset, I became calmer, stronger, and more focused. I no longer felt desperate to prove myself to everyone around me because I had finally proven something important to myself. I was far more capable than fear had convinced me to believe. The more I strengthened my mindset, the more I realized that life begins changing the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances. For years, I blamed other people for the way I felt. I blamed rejection for my insecurity, failure for my fear, and disappointment for my lack of confidence. But eventually, I understood that while painful experiences can shape you, they do not have to control the direction of your future. Inspired by the teachings of Dr. Joseph Murphy, I began understanding that the subconscious mind responds not to what you occasionally think, but to what you repeatedly believe with emotion and conviction. That truth forced me to become more intentional about the thoughts I allowed to live inside my mind. I stopped replaying every negative moment from my past like it was a permanent definition of who I was. Instead, I started imagining a stronger version of myself, even before I fully became that person. I learned that growth often feels uncomfortable because you're mentally leaving behind an old identity while trying to step into a new one. There were days when fear still returned. There were moments when doubt whispered that nothing would ever change. But instead of surrendering to those thoughts, I challenged them. I reminded myself that every successful person once stood in a season where nobody believed in them either. Every great achievement begins as an invisible vision inside someone's mind before it ever becomes reality. That understanding gave me the strength to keep moving forward even when progress felt slow. I also realized that many people unconsciously wait for perfect conditions before they decide to believe in themselves. They think confidence will magically appear after success arrives. But real confidence is built before the results show up. It is developed in private moments when nobody is watching, applauding, or encouraging you. It is built when you continue working on yourself despite criticism, silence, or temporary failure. Some of the most important battles happen internally where nobody else can see them. That is why mental discipline is so powerful. Once your inner world becomes stronger, your external life slowly starts aligning with that change. I became more focused on protecting my peace instead of chasing approval. I stopped wasting energy trying to convince doubters to understand my vision. Not everyone is capable of seeing what is possible for your life because they are limited by their own fears and beliefs. I learned to stop taking rejection personally. Sometimes people doubt you simply because they cannot imagine themselves doing what you are trying to accomplish. That has nothing to do with your true potential. One of the greatest transformations happened when I stopped measuring my worth by immediate results. I began appreciating small progress, small victories, and quiet growth. I understood that success is not created overnight. It is built through consistency, belief, patience, and persistence. Day after day, I continued feeding my mind with hope instead of fear. Slowly, I noticed my energy changing again. I walked differently. I spoke with more certainty. I carried myself with more peace. The outside world had not completely changed yet, but internally I was becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more confident than I had ever been before.